Hey, what's up guys? So today I'm going to show you how to disassemble your guitar, or more specifically your Stratocaster style guitar. It's a pretty straightforward process. Disassembly on it is actually significantly easier than putting it back together. So let's start by talking about real quick what you're going to need. It's not a lot rather. First of all, in order of importance, coffee and or beer, depending on what time of day it is. Second, you're absolutely going to need a screwdriver. If you've got one that has multiple heads, you can use that, or a collection of screwdrivers if you've got them. If you've got a little kit with a bunch of kind of precision style screwdriver parts in it, I don't know how well you can see that from there, that's also useful because there are a lot of small screws in a guitar, but it's not necessary. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. A standard screwdriver is probably going to be sufficient. In fact, if you just have a number 2 Phillips when you're doing a guitar like this, it's probably going to be just fine. Now, I'm just going to take this thing apart for paint. I'm not going to take all the pickups and stuff out of it right now. If you want to do that, it's still a very simple matter of unscrewing them. Use a shoelace or a spoon, preferably a shoelace, to take your knobs off, because a spoon can break them. You just slide it underneath there and pull up, and they'll pop right off. And then underneath, all you're going to need is a socket. It's either a 10 or a 12 millimeter, I can't quite remember. But for today, we're just going to disassemble this thing for the purposes of painting it. So with that in mind, I've covered the beverage and the screwdriver. The other thing that you will probably want is a soldering iron, or better yet, a soldering station like this one here, because it allows you to get more heat quicker. Really, to take this off, the only thing that we're going to have to desolder on this particular guitar is the output jack. Now, if you have a guitar with a couple humbuckers and stuff going through the cavities to like a Gibson style type thing, a Les Paul, you're going to need to unsolder a few other things. There is an option to simply cut the wires. However, you're going to need a soldering iron to put it back together anyway, and cutting the wires can make a bit of a mess when you go to reassemble it all, so I find that it's always best to just take the solder joints off. So with that covered, I believe that's literally everything we need. So I'm going to bring you in closer now, oh, careful, and we're going to take this thing apart. Alright, so we start off by taking off the strings. I assume everybody knows how to do that, so I unwind them. I'm in super fast motion here just because everybody, like I said, knows how to do that. I just put them off to the side for now to keep control of them. Now the next part is going to be actually taking them out of the body. You probably know how to do that as well. I'm just going to carefully feed them through the body because they come in through the back on these guitars. And then I'm going to reach around the back and grab them and carefully pull them through. This video is sped up 2 times for this portion, so I'm going a little faster than in real life. So next I'm going to just wind the strings up kind of the way they come in packaging usually. So you wrap them around in a loop like that and then pass the ends through a couple of times. This is so that they don't spring open and hit you in the eye or something. Even if you're just throwing them out, which you probably are, this is the safer option, and that way you don't have to worry about it, and neither does the garbage man. So next up, I'm going to take off the neck. In order to do that, I'm just going to grab something to lay the guitar down on. In my case, it's a not quite clean microfiber towel, but it's close enough to being clean, hopefully. And because I was trained to do this when I was doing like work on pumps and stuff, I always loosen or tighten things in a cross pattern when I can. So that's what you see me doing here. Working in a cross pattern, it only really matters at the beginning. So I finished getting those screws out of there, take the plate off, and then I'm just going to gently separate the neck from the body and go put it somewhere else because it's easier to work with just the body. Next, I'm taking the back plate off here. It's just 6 screws. I've got a little magnetic bowl to put them in. If you don't do this very often, it might be a good idea to ziplock the screws in separate bags and label them so you know which screws go where. Next, I'm just taking off the strap buttons here. Make sure you get the little felt piece that comes with them, or if you've got a really fancy guitar, make sure you get the little leather piece that comes with them. You don't want to be tightening those things back in right against the paint. You want to always make sure that there's something in between there. That also keeps it from loosening off. That's kind of the main purpose of it. It protects your paint a little bit, but yeah, you don't want those things falling out when you're playing if you're somebody who plays standing up. Now I want to get these springs out of the back here. To do that, I'm going to have to loosen these screws a little bit so that there's less tension on the springs, because I'm simply not that strong. That being said, you don't want to loosen the screws too far, just far enough that you can get the springs off for starters here, because if you loosen them too far, then there's only a little bit of thread holding them in, and then the springs will rip them right out of the wood if you're not careful. So I try and take the tension off. The middle spring's usually the easiest, so I get that one off first so that there's less tension on there, and then finally I can get all three of them. You may have also noticed that there was a grounding wire on the back there. Yeah, that's the one I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about unsoldering. Anyway, 6 screws holding in this bridge, which is kind of the the weird design feature of the old vintage bridge. That's how it bends. You use the 6 screws there to hold it in place. Anyway, so you just pull those out and the bridge comes right out, and then you can unscrew the output jack. Now this is where you're going to need the soldering iron or soldering station. It's just 2 connections, one to the tip and one to the, I guess the shaft it's called, of the jack. So you just have to take those 2 out. Try and remember which ones they are, but it's pretty easy to figure out. And then moving on to the pick guard. So I go all the way around and take out all the screws in the pick guard. I kind of skipped a few in the video because there are so many of them. And then you can lift it up, but do it carefully because it's still grounded in a couple places under there. One of which is in the back, which I really should have taken off when I had the guitar flipped over. And one is inside here where the shielding paint is. That one you can just unscrew. The one inside's pretty easy. Just carefully unscrew it. Make a note of where it goes. I mean, it's the only screw hole in there really, but still, keep track of it. And then on the back, we go in and just undo that solder joint. You can unscrew it first, which is what I'm doing. But either way, you don't have to necessarily unscrew it first. Once that piece is off of there, there's just that one solder joint in the back. Again, you can cut it if you choose to do that. I think it's probably cleaner and easier to undo it with the soldering iron if you can. And that's really it. That was the last thing holding it in place. Pickguard comes off the body, and that's all there is to it. Now we've got a body that's ready for masking. And that's it, guys. Sorry, there were 2 places that needed to be desoldered and or cut. The output jack and that grounding cable that goes in the back. They're fairly easy to deal with. And now this body is disassembled and ready for some custom work to be done on it and ready to get scuffed up for paint. So I hope that was helpful. If you guys have any questions, drop me a line down in the comments section and I'll try and get to them. I'm no expert on wiring. It's pretty simple taking this stuff out of the pickguard though, and I will be doing that in one of my upcoming videos on how to customize this thing. So I hope that was helpful, and as always, thanks for watching. Have a good one.